Today we're going to start a new series called New versus Old, where we're going to take two different vehicles that are very similar, yet very different from very different time periods. We're going to compare the two. In the comments below, you can tell us which one you like better. Today we're going to compare two very popular vehicles among enthusiasts, a classic, a 1968 Bronco, and a brand new 2021 Bronco. Now, people have been waiting a long time for the new Bronco to come out, and when they were talking about the design of what it was going to be, many people were hoping it would be more along the line of the full-size Bronco, the one from the 80s and 90s, an F-150 chassis, maybe a full-size larger vehicle, but instead, Bronco went back to its roots and made the vehicle very, very similar in size to the original 68. It's also no accident. This is a similar size to the Wrangler, which is basically Bronco's big competitor. And when Ford built this, they took the styling from the original. They wanted to keep the Bronco roots, but they were aimed squarely at that Wrangler market, as the Wrangler really had no competition, and that's what the Bronco is here to do. But first, let's take a look at our 1968. Our 68 Bronco has been a part of the CJ family for a long time. This vehicle was restored several years ago. We did a bunch of projects on it. You can actually check it out on our sister channel, CJ Classic Trucks. Basically, it is a 68 Bronco, four-wheel drive. Under the hood, 347 Ford crate engine with a Holley EFI fuel injection system on it, Ford performance heads, making around 360 horsepower and probably 400 pound-feet of torque. It's backed up by a 4R70 automatic transmission, so a 3-speed with an overdrive, and this vehicle has air conditioning, power windows, power disc brakes, and it's a lot of fun to drive. I mean, this thing turns heads everywhere you go, and you can't beat the classic Bronco styling. Pop the top off this thing. It is an amazing summer vehicle, and again, an absolute head turner, and you really just can't argue against the classic styling of the first generation Broncos. And for our new, we have this 2021 Bronco. Now, this is a Badlands edition, meaning it is basically an off-road rig right from the factory. Now, under the hood, this has the 2.7-liter twin-turbo EcoBoost, makes a little bit less horsepower than the old Bronco at 310, but around the same torque at 400. But add the 10-speed automatic, it's a good possibility this to be actually a little bit quicker than our classic Bronco. This also has electronic lockers, 35-inch tires, and tons of technology, a lot of it geared towards off-road, but also a lot of great stuff for on-road. Now, obviously, both Broncos make plenty of power, they're designed for off-road, they look great, but the best part about them is driving them, so let's take them both for a test drive. Let's take this 2021 for a ride. We've driven a couple of these new Broncos already, and they are, as we've learned before, our little obstacle course here, they're very, very capable off-road vehicles. And what's crazy about the new versus the old, like I said, is you're getting the technology is a huge, huge difference. I mean, this vehicle's got electronic locking differentials. It's got a remote sway bar disconnect on it. I mean, it's just crazy what you can do. I mean, these are full-blown off-road rings in the factory, where on your classic Bronco, all that stuff's stuff you're gonna have to add. So I think if it comes down to simply looking for, an off-road vehicle, there's really no comparison as far as capabilities, especially in stock form. And obviously you can build stuff to do anything, but what Ford gives you from the factory with these new Broncos is pretty amazing. I mean, you got a vehicle that drives fantastic. I mean, they're comfortable. You got the 10-speed, and this one's got heated seats, heated steering wheel. One's pretty loaded up, but you can jump on the highway and do 70, 80 all day long in perfect comfort. I mean, it's got a huge screen in it, but you find, you make it to your local off-road track, you show up with this thing, and literally air down the tires, and you've got a trail-ready vehicle that you can go out, have a lot of fun with, go over some pretty crazy obstacles. I mean, we had these out at Red Rocks out in Vegas a couple months ago, I guess now, actually. And, me and my videographer were amazed at what these things can do in stock form. I mean, literally disconnect the sway bar, put the lockers on, and you can go through pretty much anything. And then come back, air it up, and drive it home. I mean, obviously, the new one is going to be way more comfortable to drive. It's going to be a lot more solid. But is it too much? The complaint I know a lot of people have when it comes to, the new versus old vehicles, that the new ones are almost like too much of an appliance. Like it doesn't have that soul the classic vehicles do. I mean, these look cool, and like I mentioned, obviously crazy capabilities off-road, but it's still a new vehicle. You can go out and buy one just like it. There's no heritage to it. It's not You know, like it doesn't have that cool factor of a classic. I mean, a classic, most of the times you're not going to run into one like yours and you're out driving around. It's going to get, you know, they get a ton of attention because classic Broncos are just cool, where, like I said, the new ones still get that because they're new, but over time, will that fade? Probably. You know, and Bronco built this, I mean, they kept true to the roots of the classic as far as styling goes, but obviously this was built to compete with the Wrangler. I mean, that's what they built it to do, and, you know, so far it seems like it's doing an amazing job. All right, let's take the old one for a spin. Obviously, the first thing sounds way better than an EcoBoost ever will. Couple obstacles too for fun. The old definitely wins in the sound department. I mean, you can't beat the sound of that freaking Ford V8. Now let's get it out on the road here. Now here's with the new, you know, obviously it's going to have a little bit of an edge. You know, modern technology, it's going to ride better, it's going to drive better. Now this drives like a classic truck, which is exactly what it is. But like I said, this is a bit of a resto mod, so this has power disc brakes and it has air conditioning and power windows, and so yeah, healthy V8. But yeah, drive is a little more all over the road. I mean, it is more of a classic feel to it for sure. And this has a mild lift kit. I mean, ride height's pretty similar. And, you know, the funny thing about comparing these two is price points probably not that far off from each other. I mean, you know, resto modded Bronco like this versus a brand new Bronco, the price points are pretty similar, actually. So it really comes down to which do you prefer? Do you prefer the, you know, the modern technology, or do you prefer the classics? Yeah, and I love modern ones. I'm a big fan of technology and, you know, the power and performance of modern vehicles, but there's something about driving a classic too. First thing you remember when you're out on the highway driving a classic like this is these were not meant for the highway. I mean, these old Broncos, they were meant to go off-road. They were meant to be used for trails and stuff like that. Now, these are not highway cruisers. I mean, ours has the 4R70W, so it does have an overdrive, and we're doing 60 right now. We're only tacking like 1,600, 1,700 RPM. So it makes it perfectly livable, but the wind noise is louder, the chassis is louder, and, you know, it's not gonna ride like the new Bronco does, but again, that's part of the charm of driving a classic. Now, in this case, both Broncos were a lot of fun to drive, and they both turn heads as you don't see too many new Broncos on the road yet, and a classic is always going to get a lot of attention. Now, are you a fan of the classic styling? Are you a fan of modern technology? Well, let us know in the comments below. Let us know if you prefer old or new.